live, I just want to say this is going to be a great show. We are honored and privileged to have Sawcruhteez, who is really a good teacher. And I've watched his videos, and he really teaches in the same style that Tyler Jenks did. And I did write a critical review. We have all kinds of links too. The number one link, of course, is to this course that he's offered.
You know what? Ugly. Start again, because I think we got chopped off at the beginning there.
All right.
So, and puff up your chest, because...
okay, we're going to start all over again.
This is our normal. This is our normal fatigue. Yes,
show.
That's right.
Here we go. Are you ready?
All right.
Huddle.
Save. Build. Sound money.
And guys, see, I'm really not a fat guy.
No, it's just,
I'm really not.
This is our wealth.
This is how
we huddle.
I'm buffed up.
This is how we huddle, guys.
Okay, yeah. But now we're going to relax, and I can show off my
yeah.
So, okay, to start over again, guys, we are really honored. We've got Sawcruhteez on, also known as Tyler Codes. He was the apprentice or student of Tyler Jenks. Tyler was supposed to be our keynote speaker at the Working Man's Bitcoin Cruise. And then with his unfortunate passing, we invited Sawcruhteez, said, can you possibly talk about these 10 pillars of Bitcoin? Because the last time he appeared on our show was just before his passing, and I wouldn't let him explain it. I said, no, you got to save that for the cruise. And, and then he passed on. So so Sawcruhteez picked up that mantle, and he just did a great job. So there's a link to that thing. I'm going to just outline a few things. This is the book Hyperwave, and it's co-written by Tyler Jenks, #1, and then Tyler and Leah. Now, Sawcruhteez, whoops, upside down. Sawcruhteez wrote the section on technical trading, okay? And as you guys know, my emphasis is not technical. It's not TA. I believe that TA and fundamentals are absolutely worse than worthless if you don't have money management in there first. You got to have that part of your DNA, then this helps. Now, once you have that down, for $10, this book has an absolutely great section on TA. It's a great, just about everything you need to know. I've probably spent $50,000 to $100,000 in my day reading all these books, buying these books, had an extensive library. I did 11 in prison. I don't know where that library went, but at any rate, and I'm sure that same happened with Tyler, I guess. So this is kind of, and between this book and Tone Vay's section where Learn Trading, these are 2 free things. This isn't quite free. This is $10. We have the link to Amazon to pick up this book if you don't already have it. And I wrote a critical, here it is. You might want to explain why Bitcoin is hyperwave. And I know the reason it isn't is because it doesn't qualify you according to the technical terms. And the purpose of this book is to outline what hyperwave is about. But we're not even going to talk much about that. This whole thing is, you guys are always asking me just basic mechanical things on how Bitmex works. And you know what? I don't know how it works. I mean, it's just kind of intuitive for me. How I get liquidated 2 or 3 times a year. I probably don't do it right, but my track record is still kind of speaks for itself. But Sawcruhteez knows how it works. So if you guys have questions on Bitmex, please use this opportunity to ask Sawcruhteez. We have a link to his course. There's 4 sections to the course. If you're a beginning trader, you want to look at all 4 of them. If you're an experienced trader, you just need to look at the last, starting at 4. I think there's 5 or 6 sections. I think, yeah, 5 sections. So just you need 4 and 5. But it's a great little trading skill. And then finally, if you don't have a Bitmex account, please use Sawcruhteez affiliate code. Guys, I don't need the affiliate codes. I mean, I have them if you guys want, but I don't emphasize it. This is Sawcruhteez show. And the only way that he's getting compensated is you need to buy his book, and you need, if you sign up for a Bitmex account, use his affiliate code. Okay, you get a discount and he gets a little commission. It all adds up, and that's how we put ourselves on the Bitcoin Bitcoin standard, just one transaction at a time. So, all right, Sawcruhteez, I'm done. Have at it, and I'll let you moderate, Juan.
I got it.
The questions. We'll go.
Yeah,
from there.
don't be mean on the chat, or you will get the boot.
Yeah, and we have invited the public to this too. It's not just our members. We tweeted it out. So if you're new, we kind of want to favor all of our members. If you want to ask questions, but if you're new, just listen and enjoy. We wanted to share this with you guys. And anyway, I'm done.
And one more thing before you get going, for those watching on Facebook, if you want to engage in it, come over to YouTube, Ugly Old Goat YouTube channel, and you'll find live stream. All right, take it away.
And we should be live on Twitter.
All right. Well, I sure
We're
appreciate
on Twitter too.
having me on, and I definitely appreciate the kind words. It's very cool to hear that you read the book and got something out of it, and it's one of the few that you still have around. That's really cool. So thank you again for those words, and yeah, I'm happy to be here to answer any questions that anybody may have. I think it is extremely important to understand the ins and outs of the contracts that you are trading, whether you be just trading on spot, and understanding the fine print of the exchange that you're using, and especially if you are looking to dabble in some derivatives on leverage, it is critical to just start by reading the contract details. Just pull it up, and you know, somebody like Ugly, he's been around for long enough that he you know, was I'm sure very aware of you know, the important details of the different contracts he trades, and he understands why he would be buying a future opposed to the perpetual contract and that sort of thing. And I would just strongly encourage anybody out there to just go through the contract details for anything that you are actively trading or considering to trade. And the first thing that I would say is a very common question that I get is people ask, how much leverage should I be using? And my answer is always none. I don't think that the large majority of people should be using any leverage at all. And the one thing that Ugly and I can certainly agree on is that risk management is king. And without risk management, it doesn't matter how good you are at anything else, you're going to end up back at zero. It's only a matter of time. And therefore, you have to have a very clear understanding of why you would be using leverage in the first place. And if you have to, you know, ask somebody like me how much to be using, the answer is definitely zero. So if you have established a track record of winning, you know, consistently, you know, taking the wins, taking the losses, and netting a profit over the long run, then potentially trading on low leverage is something that could be appealing, both to look to make some money in bear markets when the trend's kind of going down, or to look to maybe take a little bit extra risk in the bull markets and go into a leveraged long. And first thing I would say is I firmly agree with Ugly that you know, you should only have just a small portion of your bankroll on an exchange. And whenever I use leverage, and I enter a position that is a leverage long or short, it's always less than my available balance. Like I'm never entering my full trading roll and then leveraging it. That's where most people go wrong, is they say, oh, I've got $1,000 available and I want to have 2 Bitcoin, you know, I want to have $20,000 in exposure. So I'm going to take my 1,000 and go 20X and see if I can make a whole bunch of money. That's where people go wrong. Whereas if you have $1,000 and you transfer $20 of it to Bitmex, and then you use, you know, 5x leverage, something like this, and you enter a position that's significantly smaller than your available roll, the reason to do that, and the reason why I use leverage for the most part, is to decrease my exchange risk. And if I am in a spot where I have a defined stop loss that is inside of my liquidation price, then I view it as a risk management technique to use leverage to decrease my exchange exposure. And that I mean decrease how much money I have to keep on an exchange in order to trade. If something goes wrong, the worst thing happens, I would have the least amount available that I would need to trade this position. And the way that I am able to basically, you can get a pretty good feel for it. Just think of, if you're using something like 10x leverage and you have a stop loss that is 5% away from the price, that means that you're going to be getting stopped out before the liquidation ever is in danger. And that is the one thing that I think is very important to note about Bitmex is one of the things why I trust them over any other exchange is the insurance fund that they have available that is massive in relation to the deposits and withdrawals on a regular basis. That makes me feel very comfortable in their liquidity.
Can you talk about the numbers of that a little bit and go into some depth in that?
I mean, sure, I haven't looked it up in a little while. If you I'm just going to Google Bitmex Insurance Fund.
Sure.
And I mean, one of the largest Bitcoin holders through this insurance fund, 819, 36,000 Bitcoin is the balance of their insurance fund. So that makes me feel very comfortable that if something goes wrong, whether it be a hack or something else, that they have the liquidity to back it up. And then the question becomes, well, where does this insurance fund come from? And that is going to be built from the liquidation fee, which is 20%, the last that I checked. Maybe it's 25, I think it's 20%. When you get liquidated, 20% of that amount of the margin goes straight into the insurance fund, and that is how they're able to build it up. And the insurance fund does pay out sometimes. It's rare, but it consistently goes up because more people are getting liquidated and paying into it than they are needing to come out and cover for anything that may happen. So that's the first thing that I think is very important, is that I would always use an amount of leverage that allows me to be getting stopped out before the liquidation price happens, and it only has to be a few dollars. And
I have a question for you, Sawcruhteez, and I kind of teach. I kind of teach, and I'm sure I've been called on it. I'm probably absolutely wrong, but I kind of teach use the liquidation instead of stops. And the reason that I do that is, and maybe you haven't had the experience, but on these spike moves down, you can literally get stopped out when the market did not move there. So you can set your stop so it's reflecting the real market, the underlying market. So can you kind of deal with that? Because I mean, I've seen it. And also you never know where you're going to get filled on a stop. Now, I don't know. I just use, I get liquidated 2 or 3 times a year. And I mean, it's just going to happen, and it's no big deal to me. It's part of trading, but I don't use stops either. I mean, my risk is, the exchange risk is my risk, basically. And I tell people I've probably lost as much in exchanges as I've made in Bitcoin. I was in the top 10 on Bitmex 2017, and I did put this on the Telegram group that I think I had pulled out well over 400 Bitcoin, 4 to 450, 420, something like that. And I was 8, 9, or 10. I was right in there, top 10, but barely. And but I'd gotten wrecked a couple times that year too. And every year I've gotten wrecked. But the key is you just it seems like I've been a victim of every haircut that's been available. So I've probably lost more Bitcoin on exchanges than I've ever picked up on Bitmex. Now, but it wasn't worth $11,000 or $12,000 then. Bitcoin might have been worth $200 or $300, but that was still you know, this, it was still not a pleasant experience at the time. And so can you address that issue for me?
Yeah, absolutely. That is something that there is an option to use the index versus the mark. And that, as I'm thinking about entering a stop loss, I have the choice to use the mark price versus an index price, where the index will be a combination of the largest exchanges, so that if there's one flash, you know, wick on Bitmex that doesn't occur elsewhere, it'll average them out, and then the stop won't get triggered. Whereas I'm since that's my approach, and I might be wrong in my understanding, but what I'm inclined to think is that if I'm just using the liquidation, I wouldn't have the option to use the index because it's just going to care what is available there on that exchange. If I am at my liquidation price on Bitmex and nowhere else, well, that's going to trigger the liquidation, would be my understanding. And that is something that I would think that my preferred option would be to find the, once you enter the position, to find the liquidation price and to enter a stop market slightly above it. And in that situation, yeah, you're definitely worried about slippage, but if it's going to slip to your liquidation price, then that's, you know, going to get hit anyways. So if you are in a spot where you're getting that stop market and it's fully filled before the liquidation price gets hit, then you can save 20% of the position, and you can potentially protect yourself by using the index opposed to the mark. And one risk management technique that you implement that I think is very, very important for people is how you will get right back into trading after you do get liquidated. You'll get right back into you'll immediately transfer to the exchange, but you'll decrease the amount of exposure. So you'll cut back how much you're trading, so you're not kind of trapped in that gambling mentality of trying to get a loss back, but you're recognizing it's a volatile time and there's probably going to be some really good opportunities. So you can take a smaller position and still potentially make back what you lost with upcoming big volatility. And if you're able to use a stop market that's slightly inside, just like $5 or $10 inside the liquidation price, then you would potentially have that, you know, 0.4 Bitcoin left after that, you know, those 3 times a year. So you wouldn't have to redeposit, it'd be there waiting, and it would be, you know, just kind of like free money. It would be, it's either going to zero or you get the 20% if it gets to that $5 kind of threshold. And in my experience, you know, I try to set it a good amount inside such that I know I'm going to get filled before the liquidation. But yeah, I can definitely see the idea of, say you just deposit, you know, 1% of your bankroll on the exchange, and then the liquidation is the stop, and you're managing risk, because if you get stopped out, you're not losing more than you know, a certain percentage of your bankroll, and that works great. And then when you're thinking about that extra 20% of 1% of your bankroll or whatever it may be, it's a pretty darn nominal amount that doesn't really matter a whole lot at the end of the day. But as a best practice, I think that's one of the things that I definitely recommend on Bitmex.
Okay, we've had some questions. Someone wanted to know if we're going to cover TA today, and I want to address that. The primary purpose of this show is the mechanics of Bitmex, guys. That's what I want to focus on, and that because Sawcruhteez has really done a great program to teach that. There's a link to it. He's, like I say, there's 5 different shows that he's done, from the beginner trader to the experienced trader. And I don't know what his schedule is. He might have to get out of here, and I want to cover that first. When we're done with that, if you have questions about TA or anything else,
or Hyperwave, there's some questions.
Hyperwave and all that, we can go into that. I don't have a problem with it. But the focus of this is Bitmex. And also his affiliate link, because he's teaching you this, not me. If you sign up and have a Bitmex account, please use his link. Also, if you're new here and you've read my articles, you want to become a member of Ugly Old Goat, get our Telegram group, my newsletters, and all of that's in my history, my track record. You get the equity app that Victor Villacuña has written. If you want to do that, use Sawcruhteez affiliate link.
You get 15% off.
15% discount, and he
Yeah.
gets a little, we're all on the Bitcoin standard.
Yeah.
He's not, he's working for free. We want to give him at least a commission for what he's doing. So he's back here, guys. Support this guy because he's put a lot of work and a lot of work in this thing, and he's really a great guy. The people, when he spoke at the Bitcoin cruise, which that link is on there, people were just applauding him for the job he did outlining those 10 pillars of Bitcoin. And so that was my only criticism of the Hyperwave book. We need, the next time you're going to have a second edition, and then you put a last chapter in that says why Bitcoin is a hyperwave, even though it's not a hyperwave quite yet.
Yeah, and
whoa, I just lost the hyperwave.
That was the final dip in the hyperwave that was missing in Bitcoin.
That's when Bitcoin goes under 1,000.
That's right.
That's an inside joke, guys. Inside joke.
Yeah.
So I got lots of articles there, and I don't know how much you have time you have, but we want to focus, guys. If you have any question about Bitmex, this is the expert that knows it. He knows it a lot better than I do. So ask your question.
I have a question about Bitmex that we can get into, but right before we do that, everybody that's watching on the live stream, just remember, hit that like button. Just smash that like button if you're enjoying this, if you find this valuable. We got 65 people watching. We got 25 likes. We can probably get that to 40, and then more people will reach it, speak. So at any time. So go ahead and how much time do you so we can kind of prioritize a little bit?
I planned an hour for it. If we go a little bit over that, that's all right.
Cool.
Okay.
Right on. So my question is, I've noticed that the liquidation price is sort of it's pegged to the value of Bitcoin and Bitmex, right? So if the price goes down, the liquidation price actually moves up, and it's a little bit of a, it's kind of, it'll catch you off guard. And the same goes if the price goes up, it actually moves as well in the other direction, I believe. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that and help explain that to people that are new to Bitmex.
Yeah, I guess that would be something that I'm not remembering the last time I experienced that. And I trade on cross margin and will generally only be using 5x on the higher end, generally 2 to 3x, and I can't remember a time where I'll always check my liquidation price and then I'll check my stop, and I can't remember a time where the liquidation price moved.
I think it comes into play on cross, because that's what I always trade. I'm not sophisticated enough to figure out what I'm supposed to be using. So I just trade on cross, and that's what happens. You can't depend on that liquidation price, because as the market works against you, that thing rises up and pops you out. So it's kind of a rough thing. The other thing that maybe you could cover too is that Bitmex is unique, because I do a lot of arbitrage and spreading, but if you do that, they don't to the market. Each trade is there separately, so you got to be careful when you're doing that, so you don't get popped out of one side, because that's all individually calculated. It's not marked to the market like a traditional futures exchange. I want to add one thing too, guys. I'm the old guy, okay? I know what it used to be like. I know what it was like to get a margin call, for several $100,000. You got 5 days to meet it. They're going to take everything you have, okay? It's amazing what Arthur Hayes, this is why everybody badmouths Bitmex, but you don't understand how bad it was before, and what a margin call means. And you can't lose more than you have on the exchange, which is wonderful innovation. It's just incredible. He's worked it out so that you don't have what's called fast markets. In the old days, they traded off of pits, and one side of the pit might have this price and the other side of the pit has this price, and they call that a fast market. Well, if the market went through your price fast, you didn't get it. What happened to my fills? I remember waiting, till Some days I wouldn't get fills in the silver market till just before it opened the next day, which is just bonkers. So you guys have to understand how far advanced technology has brought these markets and made them tremendously efficient.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And the only reason that I trade Bitcoin on margin is because of the innovation that Arthur Hayes came up with Bitmex. And it blows my mind how hated it is across the board on like crypto Twitter compared to another place offering the same type of derivatives. And the reason why I say that is because of what Ugly just mentioned. You can't lose more than you have on the exchange. If you're going to trade Bitcoin on margin in a situation where if it goes wildly against you, you can lose your house, you can lose more than you have on deposit in the exchange, then that's the craziest thing in the world. And that's the reason why I'm allowed, that I feel comfortable trading Bitcoin on margin, because I know I don't even that they can't come after. They don't even have my, they don't need identity information. You know that they wouldn't even be able to, they're just not going to come after you. That's where the insurance fund steps in.
And I want to say about the other exchanges just briefly. There are some competing exchanges, and it's wonderful. I've tried two of them. I tried Bybit. I tried Deribit. I kind of wrote a little bit about them, but neither one of them are up to what Bitmex can do, and they've never been tested. With the volume. Bitmex has been thoroughly tested. A lot of the implementations they have is because their system did break. Believe me, the systems broke all the time before this. It's a very sophisticated market. And the other thing I want to mention, Bitmex, you can't trade there if you're from the United States. And I'd love to trade kicked off. The goat lady, she can trade. She's from Mexico. But don't blame Bitmex for that. That's not their fault. Blame your own government. Blame the United States. Write your congressman. You know what? We got our fingers in every country in the world. We want to get in everybody's business. And that's where the problem is. Don't blame Arthur Hayes. Don't blame Bitmex. Okay. If you're a U.S. citizen and you want to keep your citizenship, blame your legislators. Okay, because they're the ones that write these laws. They're the ones that have these stupid restrictions, and they're the ones. I mean, Arthur Hayes, he's protecting himself. He says, we don't want your business from the U.S. We do everything. If we find out you even suspect it, we're going to cut off if you're on an affiliate program, you're not going to get your affiliate. I mean, people feel like they got screwed. No, they didn't. It's your government that screwed you, not Bitmex. I'll leave it at that and let you take over.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and it is a very unfortunate situation that in the land of the free, I'm not able to trade where I want to trade, and I am going.
Sorry, you got choppy there. We got an answer here, interesting answer in the chat about the moving your liquidation price. Chadi Mustafa says liquidation price moves when you're holding different positions simultaneously on cross mode.
That's what I was going to say.
That actually,
to me, if you do enter into a new position when you are in cross, then your liquidation price will change regardless of where the market's going. It could even be moving in your favor. And the reason is because some of your margin is now going to be taken to be used in that other position. So when on cross, your whole account balance is at risk. And that is going to be what I use, because I am going to be looking to, understand where I'm getting stopped out, and that's going to be fine. And cross is going to minimize the margin that's required. If I enter a position and it immediately moves in my favor, then it's basically going to have me on 100x leverage because it's going to start at the highest amount possible. And then as price moves against me, it's going to auto deleverage me as much as it can to the available margin in the account. So in that situation, I know that I have enough margin to let it deleverage me to 2, 3, or 5x, whatever I have calculated. And if I do get that perfect entry, then I'm only entering 1% or so of the margin to keep that position open. And either way, if I do now open a new position, that available margin is going to have to be adjusted to for that new position, and then the liquidation price absolutely will move closer to the price due to less margin being available.
We have another question about the new policy coming up to KYC on Bitmex, and I'll just explain my position. To me, it's kind of a non-issue because I am a professional trader, and I'm not, but the goat lady is, and so I mean, she was already KYC, and she accidentally logged in from a U.S. phone number and almost lost the account, but she was already KYC. We KYC'd again. And, you know, I pay taxes every year on my trading, you know, or she does. She pays taxes every year on trading. So we don't, you know, we're not doing this to evade taxes, but we do, we want to avoid taxes. Avoiding taxes is perfectly legal. Evading taxes is not. And so that's the way that you do it. You want to pay the least amount of the tax that's due. And that's very fair to do it that way. That's why you have an accountant. But I just wanted to emphasize that fact that I'm done.
Mm.
Yeah, and I yeah, appreciate that for sure. And I will be here in the near future coming out with some new videos looking at some new exchanges and some alternatives, because now that they are KYCing, it's definitely going to limit anybody that was, you know, not, you know, that's going to really limit what I'm able to do here. So I'm going to have to change where I'm trading. So that's going to be you know, unfortunate, and I am curious to see what happens with the exchange, because I mean, bottom line, there were a lot of people from the U.S. trading. They're just hiding their IP addresses and creating new accounts when they got closed down. And I'm curious how much of that made up the liquidity, and then also the tax evaders. I'm not myself, and I agree with you fully that you should write off what you can. But there's a lot of people out there who view a big benefit of trading Bitcoin on Bitmex as avoiding, you know, evading.
Evading. Yeah, there's a big difference between evading and avoiding. You can avoid taxes. That's why you have a good accountant. But if you, you know, we're not here to promote anybody to break the law. We don't evade taxes. Pay, you know, pay what is legally due and no more. Don't overpay. That's stupid.
That's just what I'm curious is to see is how much the liquidity is affected. Are they still going to be the liquidity leader after this happens? I'm very curious to see, and I'm kind of inclined to think the Bitcoin space, how much they value being anonymous, and now the actual competitors that are out there. It's going to be interesting for me to see. So I am going to be definitely making some new videos for some other exchanges that I do think are viable competitors, but I do not think that anybody is better than Bitmex. I think Bitmex is the best, and I wouldn't be, I've only ever affiliated for them up until this recent development. I'm going to have to start, you know, affiliating with other exchanges, but that's how much I believe in Bitmex. Is for cost myself money by not affiliating for somebody like Bybit, because of how much I believed in Bitmex as the alternative. So still, if it remains the liquidity leader, and for people that are cool getting KYC, I'll still think that it's going to be the best, because there are
the exchanges are actually created. They're not a big speculative interest in Bitcoin's growing up. The big boys are hedgers. The big boys are in the business, and they need a market like Bitmex, and they are paying taxes. I guarantee it. They're not sitting there, and you're not going to form big corporations and be going all around the world and completely evading taxes. I mean, you might think that's the way it works, but it doesn't quite work that way. So that's my view. And if you're going to have the liquidity, the hedgers want the speculator in there because they need the liquidity to lay off their risk. And there's a big difference between gambling and speculation, guys. And basically, if you're gambling, you're creating a risk that doesn't otherwise exist. Speculating, hedgers are passing on to speculators a very real and tangible risk. It's a very legitimate market function. Speculators are not bad guys; they're good guys, and so are hedgers. And it's just two different sides of the same coin. Okay.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
All right. Anything else you'd like to get into in terms of Bitmex and the kind of the engine itself, like what differentiates it from other markets, or what makes it you know, the market, the king of the hill, so to speak, that it is?
Yeah, I mean, it's primarily going to be liquidity, and then the platform itself, I just really like. I think it's by far the best platform available. The options for the order types, being able to you know, set orders to, like, for example, on somewhere like Binance, if I enter a position and I want to set a stop loss and I want to set orders to take profit, it just won't let me do it. It'll let me do one of the two. Something like that is super frustrating. On somewhere like Bybit, you can get liquidated when you're using less than 1x leverage. That's a big problem as far as I'm concerned. So let's say that, for example, you deposit 1 Bitcoin on the exchange and Bitcoin's worth $10,000, and you enter a leveraged long on cross margin, the only position you have open, for $5,000. So your Bitcoin is worth 10,000 and you enter a $5,000 long position. Your exposure is half of what your margin is. You can get liquidated with a move like what happened recently, where you have one of those big crashes. You could get liquidated on Bybit because they're using the US dollar value of your margin. They're not calculating things entirely in Bitcoin. They're not completely on the Bitcoin standard like Bitmex. Whereas, so if the price dumps from 10,000 down to 4,000, well, now the value of my margin is counted at 4,000, and my $5,000 long just got liquidated on a 50% move against me. Would never happen on Bitmex. If I enter into a position on cross margin that is $5,000 long on a 1 Bitcoin that was worth 10,000 when I entered the position, the liquidation price is going to show 0.0000, which is
I also want to mention, they've really figured it out, and that is, as a service, they get nothing for this, but they figure out the funding, and they get nothing for this funding. The funding goes, all the funding either goes to the long or the short, depending upon where the basis and funding is. And funding is just a function of basis. It is. If the basis gets out of whack, then you'll see the funding. You pay the longs normally, the shorts are the ones getting paid. Now, we just entered, I'm recommending gold this month on the seasonal trade. It should bottom out in August, should go up the rest of the year. I don't know I don't know if it's a good exchange or bad, but we're using Evolve. They take all the funding. They charge shorts funding, not as much as they do the longs, but they collect that funding. Guys, that's really not a legitimate market. That's a bucket shop market. The idea of what Bitmex has done really keeps the game fair. And it's the only place I've seen that does it. It's an incredible feature. And particularly if you like to arbitrage like I do, you know, it opens a whole new avenue for you, a whole new world.
Absolutely. And even for somebody that doesn't want to ever trade on Bitmex or ever even have anything really to do with it, even if you are, you know, you're a U.S. citizen, whatever the case may be, I would always recommend keeping an eye on the Bitmex funding rates and the premium or discount in the futures. One of the most valuable things that I've learned in this whole space came from Ugly, and that's the premium in the futures in terms of backwardation. And then when there is an extreme contango, it is just an incredible way to identify major tops and major bottoms. And you can combine that with the funding rates. That's how I try to figure out where the strong hands and the weak hands are, who is really, what side of the trade is overcrowded. When there's a huge premium in the futures and the funding rate is like, 10 times what it normally is, okay, well, it tells you that the market is just way too bullish, and it's going to need to kind of shake some of these buyers out or reset. And that's something that even if you're not trading at all on Bitmex, I wouldn't be using any other future, and I wouldn't be using any other funding rate unless one does become more liquid. The highest volume is the one that I trust the most. So even if you're not trading there, I would be, as a U.S. citizen, I'm still going to be logging in and just to check the funding rates and to check the premium or the discount in the futures. And that's going to be a big way to help me to know when to, take big amounts of profit opposed to just a little trims. So yeah, it's a really great platform. And how you mentioned the funding is all peer-to-peer. If you use limit orders, you get paid to enter and to end it.
Incredible. First place I've ever traded where I get paid to trade, because it's just incredible. I mean, the only time very rarely do I use market orders. The only time I pay for a trade is when I get liquidated.
Yeah.
So, because I'm sitting there almost, 80, 90% of my orders, I'm the maker, man. You can't do any better than that. Just be patient.
Incredible.
And I'm not a breakout buyer. I sell those breakouts, so I'm always making that market. I'm not taking it. So yeah, it's incredible. I mean, people ask, well, how much did I pay when I was in the back in the day? I didn't pay much, but the closer you got to the market, an exchange member paid very little, but an exchange membership back even in those days would cost anywhere between $100,000 and $1 million. I don't know where they're trading now, but and then if somebody goes broke, every member has to come up with an assessment, because the retail customers don't get burnt. It's just the exchange members that got to eat. That's what makes an honest market. That's why banking works, because that's the bankers that are watching each other. They're the ones that keep your money safe, because they don't trust the other bankers. And that's the whole idea of what my mentor, E.C. Harwood, wrote about the lost art of commercial banking. And we're going to get that back. It probably will take a generation, but that's, that was the innovation of the late 19th century that we need to relearn today. Just like Bitcoin's the only innovation of the crypto world. That's why I'm not part of the crypto world, guys. I'm a Bitcoin standard bearer.
Absolutely. And one other thing that I did want to say is that a big knock on Bitmex will be the shutdowns when the exchange goes down. And that's something that I think is entirely due to the volume that they are handling, and any competitor that is going to be like the amount of liquidations that Bitcoin went through on that big sell-off, that Bitmex went through on that major sell-off was tenfold or more than the next closest exchange. And for them to be able to handle that was, in my mind, very, very impressive.
That was March 11th, the Black Thursday. Is that what? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I call it Green Thursday because I got rocked with everybody else. I doubled down. I said, oh man, I'll buy it a little bit of a 5,000. Had a nice position on. Boom, blew right through it. And then Juan and I, we were all sick. So we must have had the coronavirus or something. We all went to the doctor. I come back and it's under 4,000. But I'd sent, 0.6 Bitcoin to the exchange. And I was able to pick up, 40,000 Bitcoin under $40, under $39 or something. Incredible. Yeah. And so
3,800, 3,900 he got in.
So that's why, and it was from there that, I've been very fortunate. We've taken that 0.6 and I've taken out 30 Bitcoin now. I'm trading with a little over 2 now. So I'm a big believer, guys. The a lot of large traders become small traders, and a few small traders become big traders, and the wise big traders choose to become a small trader again. That's hard to do, guys, because when you got the King Kong complex, you know what's going on. And you know what? I don't have a clue where the market's going, and I trade accordingly. And that's the secret. That's what I'm trying to teach you guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, just wanted to say that I myself, realize that Bitmex will, have these outages when others won't, and the volume and the liquidations that they're dealing with is just on a complete another level. And until I see somebody else handling that volume and not going out, then I will continue to believe that it's entirely a result of that. And it's something that, like Ugly said, it's very, it's like exponentially better than what could happen in the good old days, I guess you could say, when commodities market would just go locked limit up or down, and just not even let anybody trade for days or weeks while you're and then that you're risking more than is just on margin while you're locked out, and the market's just going as far as it possibly can. So that's just night and day difference. I was there when Bitmex shut down. I was trading on that day, and it was like 30 minutes where the exchange was down. I just had to keep clicking log in, maybe 20 times. I'm sure you've been there yourself, and then you get in, and it's fine. And that's just sure, it's not perfect, but it's if you compare it to some of the traditional markets and some things that could happen there and did happen for a long time. It is a very, very fair and honest exchange that I've always, it's always been, like I said, the only one that I've been willing to promote up until now.
Okay.
So,
I guess we have an internet problem today a little bit. I don't know which one. We got multiple internets, but maybe we're
on the wrong
right one. We're in the wrong one.
If I switch it, it'll connect. Will it break the connection? I don't want to risk it.
No, we're not going to switch it now.
No, we're good. Go ahead. You can keep going if you want, Sawcruhteez. Yeah.
Oh, that was just the last thing that I wanted to say.
Gotcha.
Maybe to sign us off, Ugly, do you have any good stories of what tell us a good story of getting a margin call and being locked out of your exchange, or you ever had something like that happen?
Oh, I've had more than one happen, and when the margin call, boy, it's kind of like almost dealing with the mob, when the margin call hits, because they want paid, and when you sign up, you basically signed away the store to play the game. So you need to understand how advanced these systems are, and guys, in my day, you couldn't do what you can do nowadays. You could not trade futures and say, this is all I'm going to risk. And I'll tell you a very good story. This is a good one because it was for real. There was a guy, I even remember the letter. I don't know, I doubt if it still exists. It was called Inflation Survival Newsletter. And they had this wonderful article. This is back in the 70s where you could buy the peso, because the Mexican peso was fixed to the US dollar, and they were paying like 20% interest. So here's a no-brainer. You just buy the futures. It always closes back par with the dollar. It always does. So this guy, he basically put his life savings in to earn the 20% interest, complete risk-free. And the brokerage firm I was working for was Clayton Brokerage. They kind of put out a bulletin. Hey, there's some funny stuff. You don't really want this. Well, overnight they devalued the thing, and the guy just got devastated. It took about a month or 6 weeks to pay off the margin call, but he lost not only, he took a very, very large haircut, let's put it that way. And he lost not just what he had on the account, but about, 5 or 10 times more. So I think we had a similar situation back in the Swiss franc a year or two ago. Do you remember that one? And the Swiss franc,
yeah,
they were fixed. Yeah,
they're stories.
And there was that one. It was overnight. And you know, that's why I'm saying, you know, that's why I tweeted out this interview that Samson Moe had with Vitalik, because the problem with Ethereum is it's got a fundamental weakness, and he had acknowledged it, that the exchanges say, you know what, if Infura gets hacked, which is, I don't know what Infura is, but it's part of the Ethereum network the exchange uses, they say, if Infura ever gets hacked, Ethereum's done. And that's what's going to happen. And people don't get it. You want it, you know, you got to really, it's not Bitcoin, guys. It's not Bitcoin. The only use case and we actually did dollar cost averaging on Ethereum, and actually for the last 3 months, it popped its head up, it's actually did a little bit better than Bitcoin. And so I tweeted out, but are you crazy? I said, Ethereum's better than Bitcoin. No, it's only one, but it's better because it's a platform that promotes all the shit coins. So the shitcoin platform is, at least right now, better than Bitcoin. But you know, when this shit show's over with, it's going to be an overnight drama, and all of a sudden, poof, there goes Ethereum. That's kind of the way I see it. I might be wrong, but that's the fundamental situation that's underlying that thing. So just limit. It's fine to trade Ethereum. I do, primarily from the short side. It's fine if you want to own some, but just don't put, you know, just don't have more Ethereum than you're willing to lose. But that's true even at Bitcoin. You don't, you know, I have Bitcoin's enabled me to build the studio and do all kinds of other things. And so you want to, that's why we hodl, okay? We save, and that saving means we reward ourselves, we reward our family when we do well trading and hodling Bitcoin, and then we build and that's what uglyoldgoat.com is about. That's what Sawcruhteez does. He has these educational programs. And what else are you say? What else you're doing so people can subscribe? Do you have a service or now what are you up to that people can link to other than just this Bitmex thing? Do you have some kind of advisory service, or I don't know? Tell me about it.
Yeah, as you are talking about building, there is something that I haven't shared at all yet, and my business partner probably isn't aware that I will be here, but it's I think a perfect time because we just had the website launch, and we are doing a bit of a soft launch here. At the BitBlock Boom conference is going to be the goal. So that is a new business that I'm starting called BTC Consultants. We're going to be guys that you can just basically come to ask questions about Bitcoin. And as a former financial advisor, when I got into Bitcoin, I quickly realized that Bitcoin needs some sort of advisor that you could go to and talk to, somebody with a suit and a tie.
Sorry, can you start again? So tell us a bit again, what is BTC Consultants? You just got chopped up there.
It is, let's see here if I'm able to share my screen. BT Consultants, btcconsultants.io. It is we're here to help spread adoption by providing the resources necessary to help people understand what Bitcoin is, what they're getting themselves into, how to properly manage risk, and then also we're wanting to be the guys that you can come talk to. As a former financial advisor, I realize that that's something that Bitcoin needs dearly, is some sort of consultant that you can come to hold your hand, to help you make that first purchase, and talk to when the price is crashing, and to put together an actual plan. So that's going to be our long-term game plan. And starting out, we're just promoting 3 ways to earn free Bitcoin. So if you go to the site, you can sign up. It's a really great little tutorial that we've put together. Right now, I earn 4% back in Bitcoin for every purchase that I make on Amazon. every single dollar I spend on Amazon, I get 4% back in Bitcoin. All of my travel expenses, I can go through the biggest sites, Travelocity, Expedia, Booking, all of that. I get 4% back on all of my travel expenses in Bitcoin. There's also a number of stores that I'm able to double down on my credit card rewards. When I go to buy my gas at 7-Eleven, I put it on my credit card and I get rewards on my credit card. And then I've got it linked up to get also Bitcoin rewards. That's at select places like Starbucks, 7-Eleven. So really generating, stacking sats on a daily basis with everything that I do, from shopping on Amazon to buying gas to buying coffee at Starbucks. And then right now can show people how that all is done, all in exchange for an email address. So we've been working hard on it. And,
yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I want to sign up. I always teach people, I'm real stingy with my Bitcoin. I want to earn it. I don't want to spend it. And it sucks as cash, and it's a lousy store of value because it goes up and down a lot. But on the long run, it's treated me just fine. And so I pay for everything on my credit cards because I pay them off every month. They pay me all these kind of rewards, but you're saying I can get my credit card rewards and get a Bitcoin reward. Man, you caught my attention. That's something new. I'm going there, guys.
And I'm just amazed by these new companies that are coming out right now. Last time around in 2017, all of them were doing these alts, but now we've got some really good, legitimate companies being built on Bitcoin and using Bitcoin like it should be. And that's stuff that's really exciting to me and tells me we really are ready for that next level of adoption. And I'm hoping to do what I can to help people. Somebody that's been interested in Bitcoin, but they've never bought any. Now we can show, you could show your friends how they could earn Bitcoin for shopping on Amazon. And
yeah, you know what? And that reminds me, we have a link to a show that we did. It was the last show that Tyler had before his passing. And it was a really fun show because it was Bitcoin Saturday Night Live. Juan was on it. I don't know if you were on it or not, but Tyler was. And it was, the whole emphasis is Bitcoin's not ready for prime time. And you know who wrote that? That was Tyler. He said, I love Bitcoin, but it's not ready for prime time. So, man, I got to have you on. And then he wanted to go into his 10 pillars of Bitcoin. I said, no, you got to wait. You got to do those at the Bitcoin Working Man's Bitcoin Cruise. So that's why you got that job, Sawcruhteez. And I think the two speeches that I got the most compliments on was yours and Juan's. So, I mean,
I'm so glad to hear it. Thank you very much.
So it was great.
High five, man.
All right.
Well, we have one more question related to Bitmex here before we end the stream, since it feels like we're getting close to the end here. So Mr. Mick asks, is it possible to get accurate liquidation levels for multiple open contracts that way? And the way that he's talking about, it's, okay.
Yeah.
He says, you got it? You want to read it and try to take a shot at it?
Just to get the accurate liquidation price for multiple positions, use isolated margin, isolated leverage. And that is something I go into in that tutorial series is cross versus isolated. If you have isolated 5x, then your liquidation price is going to be something like 15-16% away, and that'll be set in stone. That'll be locked as long as you don't withdraw from the account. That would be then the only thing that could really affect that. So if you're isolated, it's going to lock in a percentage, and then your full account balance won't be at risk. It'll just be that what is isolated to that position. And then if you have still margin available, you can open new positions under isolated and get a locked in liquidation price. So that is.
And I've been liquidated on one side. I learned that the hard way on I've had multiple positions on it, but it doesn't liquidate everything. It just liquidates one side, but it's not what you wanted. And then it just. orientate you and you're all screwed up. You just learned, didn't really understand that, but now I do.
Yeah, that is something I think you touched on earlier. I forgot to mention is that Bitmex doesn't aggregate your equity, which is something that traditional futures exchanges would, in terms of if you enter a long for 1 Bitcoin and a short for 1 Bitcoin, your net exposure would be 0, and you would never be able to get liquidated, because as one contract went up, the other would go down an equal amount, and they would average it out to your equity always being the same. Whereas on Bitmex, they do not combine the equity. So if you enter long and short and the market makes a big move, it's not going to count your unrealized profit in one of the positions to offset the unrealized loss in the other, and it's going to liquidate one of the positions, and it's always going to be the one you don't want, as ugly, you know,
right.
Myself.
Well, and let me explain another thing about the good old days. You know, when you had a margin call, okay, you had 5 days to meet that margin call. Okay, they don't sell you out right away. So if the market keeps going against you, you can say, well, I got a margin call for this, but then you got a you know, it can start out, I got a $20,000 margin call, but by the time you're done, now it's 200,000, and you're still not liquidated. You're still in the damn market. You know, it's a different world, you know, it really is. And yeah, they actually created a game back then called Limit Up. It was kind of a board game to teach you how to trade the commodity futures back then. But they got rid of, they started using the fluctuated expanded limits, and that's pretty well been limited. They've made some improvements, but not the innovation that Bitmex has and Arthur Hayes has introduced. He's really taken the game to a new level, and to the benefit of of both sides, speculators and hedgers.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for having me on. It's been a pleasure, and I always enjoy getting the chance to chat with you. I've learned so much from you, and glad to be able to give anything back that I can. I really appreciate everything that you've done. That your Medium articles are really very underrated, and I'm sure people watching this most have gone through and read them, but I would highly encourage anybody to read them and reread them, and really like how I mean, it's timeless wisdom that he's sharing. You don't get the stories and the lessons and the knowledge that Ugly has without being in this thing for decades and seeing all sorts of everything you could imagine that happened in those decades. So really appreciate everything that you share with us, and yeah, thanks again for having me on.
Wow, this is one of our better shows. I know this is a classic that people can come back and watch this one, and definitely read his course on Bitmex, because it's very thorough. You know, very, you did a super job on that.
All his info's in the description.
That's right. All his information is in the comments in the description.
So, yeah, if you want to
follow him, everything.
You can buy the book there. You can we'll also put his new btcconsultants.io on there. If you're gonna sign up for Bitmex, please use Sawcruhteez referral code. I don't need it. Use his. Buy his book. If you want to sign up for my newsletter, use Sawcruhteez referral code. Let him, pay him. You know, you'll save 15%, and he gets a little bonus too. So use his referral code. All right.
That's right.
All right, we're good.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching, and yeah, let's do a little dance.
We'll do the
you gotta puff your chest up.
You ready? Okay, you gotta puff up so I don't show my belly. Okay, hodl, hodl, hodl.
Save. Build. Sound money.
So long, guys. Bye-bye.
Well, have a good night.
All right. Cheers.
Take care, man.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh.